Oh, damn it. That was good. That was a good intro.
Yeah, it was good.
That's a good. Well, thanks everybody for returning after our session zero. I'm glad I didn't scare anyone away after we got together and made our characters, and really looking forward to playing with you all. And this campaign, we're going to be playing Trudvang Adventure, a setting for 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons by Riot Minds. We'll be playing in the Foundry virtual tabletop. And I guess without too much further ado, why don't everybody take a few moments, introduce yourselves, introduce your character, and then we will get started with the session. So, how about you, Tris? Why don't you start?
Hello, my name is Tasha. I'm playing as Melric, a half elf coming from the Westmark. He's a quite short person, young as well. He's proficient in the rogue uh, specialities. I don't know what more I can tell about myself. Most things will be revealed as long as you listen. I would nominate Nightmare.
Hi guys, I'm Matt. I'll be playing Valerian. He's a Kopikali elf. That's sort of a wood elf slash dark elf from 5th edition. And he is a Dimwalker, which is a cleric type class. And he's a specific subtype called Ihana, which is very attached to nature and has some druidic-like spells. And yeah, that's him. I will nominate Hayes next.
I am Hayes. I'm playing Itol, a mistrusting ranger type character. I am a dark elf that traveled alone until he encountered some other people that were looking for someone to help them. And now I'm just traveling to ensure that everyone is safe and I can learn from my experiences. And I'll pass it on to Fives.
Well, hello, I'm Five, playing a half-troll changeling and a ranger that is a traveler, and been traveling around most parts. Mm, And he's middle-aged, quite short, and he has some troll things like yellow eyes and a tail. That's that's about me.
Well, thank you all for that. And a couple more bookkeeping things before we get started. I mentioned this before to a couple of you, but I do like to have some ambient music or music playing while we're in our sessions. So in Foundry, if you're wearing a headset or have headphones on, just be mindful of your volume settings. This is your warning before anything blasted into your ears. So there's a little music note on the sidebar. And there's volume controls there for the playlist is what you'll need to adjust. So with that, um, thanks for all the introductions, and we're going to get started. Um, It has been 6,634 elven seasons since two new stars showed up in the night sky, and the elves named them Talka and Trinu. The elves hoped that the new stars were a sign from the gods that they were returning to the world. The new age was declared based on this hope, the Age of Stars. In the reckoning of men, the current year is 1558. Stories tell of how the native Yorings lived with the many trollkin of Youngheart. There are people who claim that the Yorings were enslaved by the trolls. Eventually, the Yorings were pushed out of their native land. These new peoples, to us now known as the Stormlanders, migrated from the north and started fighting the trolls. And when this happened, the Yorings were driven north into the meager and grim land of Dane, with its scraggy pine forest, its marshes, and its volcanic plain. From the steep cliffs of the Trollridge Mountains in northern Dane, a stream of many waterfalls finds its way down to the cold ocean in the east. Hillingen is the name of this shallow and fast-moving river, whose gold is famous for having made many poor people rich. Its shores are the only land in all of Dane with rich vegetation, where stones covered by moss change places with fairy rings of mushrooms and lush grass. You find yourselves at one of the Stormlander settlements that dot the coastline of Dane, where the Hillingen empties into the Oster Ocean. This place is River's End. It is a small and unassuming village, with a single pier and a small stretch of beach devoid of the dangerous rocks common to the Stormland shore. There's about 20 buildings in the typical longhouse construction, arrayed along the shore and close to each other, near the pier, with small farmhouses and cultivated fields stretching north along the river. The sun is setting behind the mountains on the horizon, and the village is full of life, light, and song. In a field just outside a cluster of hovels, a festival ground has been established, and it bustles with local folk and the smells of celebration. Laughter and shouting ring out over the lowlands of the river, welcoming those for coming for the warm months of. So, as I mentioned before, this adventure is going to be taking place in the land of Dane, and you all are here, kind of in the northern part of the country in River's End, right on the coast with Edgeland further east on the other side of the bay. Now, each of you may have your own reasons for being in this part of the Stormlands. So let's maybe go by each player and ask why you are here. Why did you come to Dane in the River's End? Anybody have anything? Go ahead.
I can go next. Atol actually had left his homeland in the hopes of learning how to survive on his own. He didn't fit in very well with the tribal decision to attempt to survive on their own and make their own way in the world. So now they have asked him to go out and figure out his path. So for the last few years, and it's quite a few years, Atol has been acting as sort of a scout and a guardsman for little caravans and wagons and that sort of thing. He hasn't done anything significant, but he's traveled the wilds a little bit. And that's me. Well, we've said in our backstory that we had met when there was some trouble with yourself and your traveling companion, and I agreed to stay with you for a while to see if we can't get you somewhere safe.
I'll go next. So Valerian met up with Mariana a couple of weeks ago, a few towns up, in a bar. He was sitting alone, and he saw, Mariana bustling about, trying to interact with other people, and he saw something interesting about her. He's also quite attracted to her elven subtype, and thought that he would find a good traveling companion with her.
Very
That's
good.
me.
Yeah, I can continue. The reason for Milric to be at River's End is because of patrons. His latest job ended up delivering information to his patron at River End. He's traveling all over the world. He's original from Westmark, the eastern part that is. So it's just another business finished. And I give it over to Types.
And I was traveling with a merchant to the city, providing some cover for him, like I normally do. And just find myself in the city finished with my task.
Very good. Well, the time that you all find yourselves in River's End, winter seems to be waning, and while there's still a good bit of snow on the ground further inland, it seems that the temperatures have been getting warm and the weather seems to be bringing about the spring season. And so more people seem to be flocking towards River's End as the warmer months approach. The river flows a little bit more easily. The river attracts all sorts of panners and people who are hunting, fishing, trapping to come and make a few extra coin during the summer months. The village itself looks a little bit like this, right here on the edge of the river. There is a road that heads north out of the village and connects up with another main trail that goes from the town of Volgavad all the way up to some mines in the northern mountains. The villagers have diverted a small stream that flows into the village and brings with it some fresh water. There are a few boats that are moored at the pier down at the river's bank, but it looks like there has been a festival going on in these open fields between the main cluster of buildings in the village and a large manor with small walls around it towards the north end of this field. So, if you guys have been here for some time in River's End, you'll know a few places of notes here. You'll know that the village is governed by a guards jarl, and that manor house is the one that is at the north of the village. There's a single inn and tavern in River's End called the Golden Antlers. And then there are a few shops located in the village as well. The largest of them, and business seems to be picking up as the season warms, is Grsebo's Emporium. He caters mostly to the foreigners who come to work in the river, but frequently will sail across the bay, go and trade in other parts of the world. There is also an herbalist, Vindemi, that runs a shop kind of in the center of the village. And you've heard talk of a dwarf. It's a bit of a hermit that has a smithy in town. it's kind of hard to find his smithy, but everybody will tell you you just need to follow your nose to smell all the burning fire and the smell of hot metal. So, seeing the festival gathering, and as the day is drawing to a close, a lot of the villagers seem to be leaving their homes and coming to the field to partake in the festivity. So, what do you all do?
I'm going to go to Grisebo's and check if there are any caravans coming in or out, and just keep an eye out on how busy the place seems to be. In my opinion, a merchant like Grisebo would be where strangers would come to first. So this would be the place to determine if this place is busy in foot traffic or not.
Sure. When you head over to Grisebo's, you notice that there is actually a note kind of pinned to the door. The door is locked, and it looks like the store is closed up for now. The note, written in rock, says, "Come and see us at the festival."
Okay, fair enough, fair enough. But the facilities, does it look like this place could park 2 or 3 wagons, or does it look like it's more the kind of place that expects 1 wagon to come through and it couldn't handle 2 customers at the same time?
It is one of the larger buildings in the village. So, judging by the size of it, the largest building in the village is clearly the tavern. But this emporium seems like it can cater to at least a half a dozen, maybe more individual shopping. A lot of the wares that you see perhaps outside, maybe still in crates. It's a lot of supplies and gear for those who seem to be stopping in River's End, but then they're traveling further upriver to go and hang out, camp for
So-
more months.
I would be under the impression that this place is stopped at regularly, but people travel through here rather than end here. Is that roughly what I'm seeing?
That's a good assumption, yes.
Okay. Then I'll go to the tavern after that. Sorry, the inn after that, and that's me.
Okay. Anyone else?
What's no name?
The dwarf's name in town, his name is Thori. So likewise, whenever you go to Vindme's hovel, it seems to be closed up, but there is some smoke coming from a chimney stack. You do notice that her house, unlike some of the other ones in the village, the roof is actually turfed, and it looks like there's some grasses that have grown out of it. Of course, in the winter months, they're kind of grayed and seem to be kind of receding from the winter month. But there's a lot outside, collections of vines and flowers kind of hanging from the exterior wall, drying. There's a smell of kind of the strong bouquet of kind of field flower. There isn't a note on the door, but if you knock on the door, after a few moments, the door opens, and there is a small boy that answers. He looks very young. He can't be more than maybe 6 winters old. and he opens the door and looks at you and says, "If you're looking for my mom, she's not here. She's at the festival." He shuts the door behind you. Sounds like so far, what you have discovered is pretty much everybody in the village is at the festival. Anybody else?
What time of the day is it? Or
Um,
around?
The sun is setting, so
Hmm.
it's probably late afternoon, early evening. The sky, it's a little gray out. There's a bit of a drizzle that's been constant all day, so the ground is muddy. But you can tell from peeking through gaps in the clouds that the sun is setting and kind of changing the sky to kind of that bright red color. And there's also a kind of cold wind blowing in off of the ocean nearby. It will likely be dark in the next few hours.
All right. Well, Melric, for one, is strolling at the festival, looking around, see if there is something of interest, just browsing more or less.
Sure. Well, there's a lot going on at the festival. It seems there's in one field over here there seems to be some games that are occurring. There's a field set up with targets for archery competitions. There is quite a muddied field where you see a lot of bare-chested men, probably village locals, wrestling with each other, creating quite a mess. Some other areas where people seem to be dueling with swords, testing their skills in that manner. And then there's also a place where you see off to the side, it's currently not being used, but there is a large woven rope that's very large and very long, and also kind of laying in a heap like it has been used but discarded are a bunch of wooden pieces that look like batons or playing pieces that might be arranged in the field in some. Generally, the people over here in this part of the festival grounds, they're mostly men, all competing, and then there are a few kind of bystanders watching, cheering them on. In front of the tavern is where most of the feasting is occurring. There's a lot of tables that have been assembled with benches and stools. There are places where people have been cooking food and selling it or just giving it out. And there's a lot of people who are gathering here at the end of the day to eat a meal and have a flagon of ale. And then there are also kind of closer to the village itself, there are some booths set up with some of the merchants selling their wares. So, if there's anything in particular you want to do with that, and also Atol and Miriana, as you guys come to the festival, you see the same.
Hest is also perusing around the festival and looking quite interested in the game where they shoot bows and such.
Okay. It seems like there are some people who are gathered around there right now. It doesn't look like they're competing, but they are practicing. You know, they have their own bows and they're shooting arrows into targets, talking to each other, perhaps gesturing at each other and laughing. And, you can tell they're trying to outdo each other, call where their arrows are going to land on the target, perhaps try to shoot from the furthest they can, see who can shoot and hit the bullseye from the furthest position.
Guess I just keep on looking a little.
Okay.
Is there a particular area at the festival that is more crowded, a little more lively, beyond the competition area, that is?
Sure. In the area in front of the inn, this kind of clear area here, where most of the people seem to be seated at tables and eating, you can see that there are two performers, one of whom is dancing. Looks to be a sort of, she may be half elvish, and she actually looks like this. And you see another figure with a flute who is playing his flute and dancing and seems to be kind of performing tricks for some of the villagers, attracting some oohs and ahs. But this seems to be where most of the villagers are currently. A lot of the merchant stalls seem to be, finishing up their the day and putting away wares. But most of the activity seems to be in front of the inn.
How many people would I guess is right there in the area?
Even though it's a small village, you probably guess that there's at least 100 people.
Yeah, I'm done for now. Thank you.
So Valerian is very curious at the archery competition. He's observing closely, and he gauges that he might be able to compete with what's on offer. But first, he's in the market for a new bow. His current one's a little bit old and haggard, so he's gonna peruse different stands to see if he finds something that catches his eye.
Sure. Well, they're at the stalls in the kind of merchants area of the festival. There are several people selling their wares. A lot of them seem to be like homewares or foodstuffs. You see that there is what might be someone selling a lot of adventuring gear, probably Grsebo's representation here at the festival. You do see a dwarf with a stall, and he seems to be distracted by some food that he's currently behind his stall, gorging himself on. And that's really it as far as anybody you see that might have something that would be akin to weapons. Most of the wares here seem to be a little bit more on the mundane kind of tame side, not necessarily something for a warrior or even a hunter.
All right, Valerian would like to approach the dwarf and see if he can get his attention. Good sir, may I please inquire about your wares?
The dwarf finishes chewing on some bread that he has, and he looks up at you. And here is the dwarf. He says, "Oh, yes. Welcome to my stall. My name is Glocka. What are
Good
you
day,
looking
Glocka.
for?"
I myself am in the market for a new bow. Do you have such a ware in your stock?
He says, a bow. I have a crossbow, but no bow that you may use for, hunting. That's tall and strong." And he points you over to one side of his stall, where leaning up against some crates, there are some crossbows arrayed. It says they're fine dwarven make.
Ah, I see. That's not quite what I was intending. And do you perhaps have any knives?
He nods and goes over to another section of the table laid out where he has several knives and daggers of varying quality, varying length. Do any of these interest you?
Yes, I'd like to peruse them and perhaps see which knives are on the higher quality side. I'll ask the dwarf if he has one he recommends.
He picks up one that has some gemstones set into the handle, and he says, now this one is quite fine. It's from Midland, and you won't find finer here in the Stormlands. And if you want to judge the quality of any of these items, you'll need to give me you could just give me an intelligence check. So you would just roll a d20 and add your intelligence modifier to it.
Okay, sure.
Okay. Indeed, the one that he is showing you looks to be of superior quality to all the other daggers and knives that are on display.
This one looks perhaps beyond my means, but I'd like to inquire what do you ask for it?
He looks at you and he says, well, that'll be a gold piece.
I'm not currently sure how much gold my character has on him, but I think this is probably too much.
It could be. He judges your reaction and seeing that you seem a little put off by the price. He kind of shuffles over to look at some of the other daggers he has, and he picks one out and he shows it to you, and he says, "Well, how about this one? It'll be 3 silver, and it's not as quite handsomely made. It doesn't have any gemstones set in it, but the wrappings around the handle seem to be in good condition. There's no nicks or scratches in the blade itself."
Shall I roll another check to see if I agree with his assessment?
You certainly can. Indeed, the knife does look to be well made. It does not have the adornment that the other one does, but seems to be of good quality.
I'd like to attempt to see if I could haggle the price down slightly.
Okay.
Perhaps a persuasion.
So, how much do you want to pay for it? Or how are you going to haggle with him? What do you say?
Good sir. I see this as a fine knife, but 3 silver is asking quite a lot. How would you say to 2? Would that be agreeable?
Roll a persuasion check. So that will be one of your skills. He looks at you and he looks around. You two are the only one kind of around. The other merchants are kind of closing up shop. You're the only customer right now. And he leans into you and he said, fine, 2 silver. Trying to wrap up the day and head back to the mountains. So trying to sell as much as I can. And so he'll put out his hand for 2 silver coins.
right now. Out of character, I need to ask how many coins my character possesses right now.
So your background would tell you how much coinage you start out with. So assuming you did not spend your money on buying a bunch of other things, what was your background again?
It was Traveler.
Okay. So you should have 10 silver currently.
Okay, well, that's fine. I can afford it.
Okay.
I give the
then-
dwarf his asking price.
He takes your 2 silver and smiles and says, well, thank you for the business, and then hands you the dagger.
Thank you, sir. Have a good day.
You too, enjoy the festival. And he begins to start packing up some of his wares.
Valerian heads out and goes to look for Mariana.
What is S doing during all of this? Oh, you were at the archery. That's right. Go ahead, Miriam.
Yes, that's you.
Sorry. Come
I
again.
think he was just watching the archery festival. He did say something earlier.
Yeah, I was watching the archers.
You do see over by the archery festival, Hess. You see that there is a woman that approaches with a longbow. This is what she looks. And she seems to have gotten all the attention of the men over at the archery competition as she begins to converse with them and looses an arrow at the target, and it lands effortlessly into the bullseye. And she notches another arrow, steps a few paces back, and shoots again. Not quite as perfect a shot, but she seems to be impressing her competitors over there. And you suddenly hear somebody come up from behind you, Hess. You see this individual. He pats you on the shoulder, and he is watching the woman shooting the arrows. And he says, she's a fine archer, that one, isn't she?
Sure is. She hit some targets. She seems to be, I don't know, it looks good.
He chuckles and he says, "Say, I haven't seen you around these parts. I'm Vendia, and are you passing through, going to work on the river this summer?"
I'm just, I just got here with a merchant and saw this festival and saw them shooting some arrows. So I was thinking maybe, or I was wondering what they were competing about. Just looked fondly. I don't know exactly where to go next. I take where my customers take me.
He nods and says, "Well, this is as good a time as any to be here. We usually don't throw this many festivals. This is a special occasion." They had just finished up the archery competition earlier in the day, but I'm sure if you wanted to go and test your mettle against any of them, they would be happy to oblige you.
Might take them up on that offer. And try and see how good one is.
Sure. So if you want to engage with all the guys there and arrange a little competition, they will see you, Hest, and you're a little bit shorter stature than these guys. These guys are clearly Stormlanders and quite tall compared to you, and they want to make a friendly wager with you if you want to compete with them.
Okay.
They say if you can hit that target successfully with 5 arrows, they'll all start putting some money in a pot, and they'll bet if you can do it or not. And if you succeed, you can win their money. And if not, you also have to be putting money into the pot. And if you are not able to hit it successfully multiple times, then they will keep the money.
Okay. What? How much money are we putting in the pot every time?
They say, oh, how about a copper an arrow? So 5 arrows, 5 copper.
That sounds agreeable to me.
And there's about 5 of them. So they all pony up about 5 copper. And you put in 5 copper as well.
Yep.
And now give me 3 rolls. They're basically attack rolls for your bow. And we'll see if you the target you need to beat is a 10.
Is it attack roll or which should I roll on?
It is. If you just click on your longbow,
Yep.
where it changes to a dice, a d20, and you click that and roll.
Like that?
Yes. So you hit on the very first one,
Yep.
and you hear some grumbling, but go ahead and do it again. Ooh, that one barely hits the edge of the target, but it's still a hit. And the third one lands true, and now you can see all the other competitors are kind of their faces are getting kind of long as they're watching you do this almost effortlessly. Give us 2 more.
Yep.
Wow. You are amazingly consistent as you are sinking 3 arrows into a very tight area. And then 1 more. Well, you have bested their challenge, and you have also netted yourself 5 copper. And they begrudgingly hand over the money, and they say, lucky shots, lucky shots. And they all go back to talking amongst themselves. But after you are done competing, the woman who was there before, or who is there also shooting at one of the targets, notices you, and she comes over and she says, well placed shots there. I'm Fiala.
Fiala, what did you say?
Sorry,
Come again, the name, so I remember.
Fiala.
Fiala.
Yeah, chat.
Fiala. Well, hello. Yeah, I saw you shoot before too. You shoot quite well yourself.
Have to be a good shot if you want to be a hunter in these parts.
So, as well as a ranger, one needs to be quick to shoot right when one's out hunting.
She nods in agreement. She said, well, you certainly know what you're doing then whenever you're using that bow. I wagered that you can make a few bit of coin here. There's good game out in the wilderness beyond River's End. So my advice to you is get out there before the rest of these guys take out the the spring catch for all the game that's out there.
I thank you for the advice.
She nods and says, well, I hope you enjoy the festival. I'm going to go and get myself a drink now. She kind of waves herself goodbye and gathers her things and heads over to where everybody else is gathered.
I gather my things and follow her as well.
All right. What about Miriana or Atul? What are you all up it doesn't take you very long to see where her stall is at, because just like her house, it has quite a distinctive smell to it, one that you recognize quite easily as being the scent of flowers and herbs, very fresh. You see a woman, and she has flower petals kind of braided into her hair, and unlike everybody else, she's actually barefoot at her stall. She looks like this. As though she tries to hide it, you can tell whenever she sees you, she kind of pulls her hair like over her ear, but her ear has a slight point to it. She might be a half elf. She smiles kindly at you and unsure about, you know, shaking hands, but she follows suit and she says, well, hello. Yes, I am Vinmi. Uh, Welcome to my stall. Is there something that I can interest you in? She says, "Of course I do." And she has kind of on a few racks on her table. There are like small glass vials and some small like clay pots. And she begins to open some of these vessels and kind of share them with you and talk about each of them. You see that there are there's like bark shavings in one. Others, it's like it almost looks like in the glass, it's like pollen collected from a flower. It's this kind of yellow, very fine dust. Then she has various leaves and seeds also collected. Um, some of them smell quite good. Some of them have more of like an earthy or like a bitter smell or aroma to them. And she also describes to you what she does with a lot of them. She says for the village, she does make quite a few tonics or other sorts of ointments for people when they are sick. Other times, she's just, the women of the village will come to her for, basically like scents or perfumes that uh, they can use. She says, no, I don't really deal with many of the farm animals nearby, but you could probably go and talk to Bogdan. And she points to a man kind of in the festival grounds, seated at a table, eating and drinking. this is what he. Her eyes get a little big and she says, No, no, no. I don't deal in any of that. Yeah, she kind of understands what you're angling for and selects something that uh, smells quite strong, has a very good, strong bouquet, and she tells you that this can be, mixed with some uh, some strong liquids to kind of make sort of tincture. If you wanted to use it almost like an antiseptic, but if you take the petals and like kind of rub them, in your hands or like on your neck, the scent will last for days. Mhm. Um, she says, this is going to be 2 silver. She nods and says, usually at the end of the day like this, on occasion she'll go to the Golden Antlers, but with the festival in town, everybody who is anybody is here. She says, sure, I would like, we can meet up later and you can talk about whatever you want. Okay. We'll come back to that in a second. What about um, Melric or Atoll? How are you guys getting along at the festival?
I have a bit of a thing to say. So, why don't we let Melric go
I
and
can
then I'll
see
go?
patrons of the better off position. A little more wealthy than the normal person.
Mhm. Why don't you roll me a perception check? Generally, what you get a sense for in the people who are gathered here at the festival, these people all seem to be from very kind of similar walks of life. Their adornments, their clothing is all fairly minimal and utilitarian looking. The handful of people that really stick out in your mind as anybody that might be of some sort of status would be one, the Bogdan, who Miriana is going over to speak with shortly. Um, also, not at with the other stall that you assume could be Grisebo's. There is a woman who um, looks like she could be Grisebo's wife, but she doesn't appear to be Stormlander and actually has a nice dress on and has some jewelry. And then you also see an older man who is seated at one of the tables, at the head of a table. And he also has, some decoration and some jewelry, but he has quite a bit of a crowd around. Those are the few that kind of stick out in your mind. Most everyone
Yeah.
else looks like they are just your common village folk.
I'm watching for an opening for Bogdan when he's talking to Mariana to make a sleight of hand to see what I can pick up, maybe.
Okay.
Just bumping in, sorry, and on the way, picking, feeling, see what's catching up.
Well, sure. You see this elf coming to Bogdan and starts to engage him in conversation, which you'll overhear in a second what the conversation is. But why don't you give me a sleight of hand roll? See if he seems quite, engaged in the conversation with Miriana. And so as you are kind of walking by, it's almost effortless as you bump into him, and he turns around and looks at you, and he says, "Excuse me," and then goes back to talking to Miriana. But what you were able to get off of him as you were brushing past him, skillfully kind of swiping whatever you can get, you were able to get a ring off of him that was sitting in a pouch on the side, and it's a silver-looking ring.
Yes, I'm noting it down.
All right.
And I'm quite happy what I got, even if I don't know the values. I got a ring, put it down in a pouch myself, and walk along and take. It's a festival. There's food and drinks everywhere. So I take a mug somewhere and something to eat somewhere else when people aren't watching too much.
Yeah, that also reminds me. I forgot to mention this. So, if you guys want to buy things specifically, you can. But there is also in the Hero Companion, we can abstract your kind of daily cost of living whenever you're in a settlement. So to find lodging, to eat food, they have what is called lifestyle expenses or just expenses. So these are on page 144. If you live as a modest person per day, it costs you a silver coin. If you live poor or squalid, it's going to be less. And if you live much greater than that, kind of describes what those mean there. If that's you're curious about, where you're staying or anything like that, we can just kind of wave that off a little bit, just as a minor
As a
bookkeeping
note.
note. Atol, what are you up to then?
Rather amusingly, what I want to do is related to lodging. So last we saw me, I was headed towards the Golden Antlers. I wanted to volunteer to help clear up tables for them in exchange for lodging in the stables tonight. But if they accept that help, I'm also going to be clearing off any food that anyone leaves behind as they go off to be drunk or whatever, to store for myself to eat, or my teammates, depending on if we're lodging together or not. I'm planning on roughing it a bit, but if I can get away without having to spend any of the money I have, that would make me happier, because I don't spend a lot of time in civilization, really. I travel between places, so I don't have that much coin. But the other thing I wanted to do as well, I don't know if I can get basically free lodging and food, but I'll work for it. However, the other thing I wanted to do is, since I look quite young, relatively speaking, I will help the kids. In the archery competition, there's always younger people who have to prepare the target for the next person to shoot. So I'll pretend to be one of the kids and go help them take the arrows out and set the new target and all of that, but I'll keep all of the arrows.
Interesting.
Unless someone asks for them, I'll keep them.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. So as you head towards the Golden Antlers, it is open, and there are certainly people inside drinking. People are kind of freely moving in and out. The sun is starting to set real low in the day, but as you enter into the tavern, it is a typical large open space, and it's not so much an inn as it has private rooms, but there are stables, and people will pay just sleep on the floor inside the tavern for the evening. And you see a man who seems to be directing the traffic. There seem to be some other servers or people helping him. He's carrying a keg out into the festival grounds and returns. Clearly seems to be the head. That is what he looks like. And if you ask any of the servers and ask, who do I speak about, for your request, they say, oh, go to speak to Kjartan.
Okay. So yes, I will approach him. And I'll say, I understand that you're very busy, but I seek to help you. I'll clear up tables. I'll do all of the small tasks you need. All I ask is a place to sleep tonight in the stables, if that's possible, or even in the yard. But I need somewhere to spend the night.
He doesn't really look at you while you're talking to him because he's busy, cleaning things, grabbing some items, moving about. But he seems to be listening, and he just kind of nods and he says, yes, that's fine. Can always use an extra hand.
I'll go help them. And I will honestly and quickly help as best I can.
Okay. I propose we take a short 5-minute break, if that would be amenable to everybody.
Absolutely.
Sounds good.
All
And
good.
then we can adjourn again and continue. So,
Sorry,
let's take-
Fives. Sorry, finish up, yes?
Hmm?
Sorry, Fives. I wanted to say, your two-handed longbow, you
Yes.
might just want to check the attack section, because I see you're not adding your ability bonus into it.
Where do I change?
You're referring to dexterity bonus.
Your dex bonus, what's your dex bonus?
I
4
don't know.
or no 2.
15 I have in dexterity, and that's
Oh, okay.
plus 2
Are
on the
you
left
not
side.
proficient in it then, maybe? If you're not proficient, the +0 makes sense.
You should be proficient in it.
Because it's +0 +2. So the +2 is his proficiency bonus, I would assume. But he's adding 0 and 2. So 1 is proficiency bonus, and oh, it says not proficient at the bottom. There we go. Never mind. So you are not listed as proficient with that weapon. That is what the difference is.
Okay.
And surprisingly, he is proficient in it. We just don't have that checked in your
Checked,
weapon
yeah.
block.
So I just wanted us to fix that before we carried on. Sorry. Anyways, 5-minute break, people. Sounds like a
Sorry.
great plan.
There you go. Now,
He does need a modifier.
So, um, Atoll, you are now living your fantasy of being hired help, as you
Mhm.
are running errands for Kjartan, and he's kind of telling you what to do, like Atoll over there, get more ale to that table, kind of, you know, becoming an errand boy, as it were, and you also cross paths with Kjartan's son, Crocker, a young lad that has quite a big smile on his face, who is also helping his father, manage the festival, running around. So, Miriana, you come and sit down next to Bogdan, and what do you? How do you introduce yourself? He seems suspicious of you whenever you approach so confidently like that. But he, you know, reluctantly will uh, reach out and exchange the greeting with you. And he says, "Well met. I am Bogdan. I own many farms around this village. I guess you're not from around here, so welcome to our festival." He thinks for a second, kind of stroking his beard, and he's, hmm, perhaps, but it'll soon be the planting season. The harvest soon after that, and I don't have many horses on hands, and I'm going to need every single one of them. But how do you suggest we perhaps go about this arrangement? He nods and says, "Hmm. Yeah, sure. Once the festival has concluded, we can talk some more, and you know, perhaps tomorrow we can you can come over to my farmstead and we can discuss it a bit further." Out of character, full disclaimer: I know nothing about horses and horse riding, so it's also like you say that, and I'm like, I don't know what this means or how to do this. Got it. Sure. He can, and he starts to describe how to get to his farmstead. And you'll have to excuse me for a second. The male person is here, and my dog is about.
At him, boy.
Get him!
Guardian Doge. because you zoomed in so much that you have no equipment detail. If we all zoomed in, we'd be a lot more similar. But because we're zoomed out, there's lots of detail lost.
Especially mine.
Sorry
Mine is
about
like a brown smudge.
Yes, a brown smudge because you've got a mask and a hood as well.
What?
So, as you and Bogdan are kind of discussing details, it seems that most of the uh, your characters have all found their way to the feasting area, and perhaps you found a table to sit at and enjoy a meal, or if you're like Atoll, you're busy working, and you see the older man that Melrick, you noticed, was a little bit more well-to-do. There's a man seated at the head of the largest table, and he begins to get up and he raises his flagon, and you hear everybody else kind of hushing and saying, "Speech, speech, speech," and the whole feasting ground kind of gets quiet as the man gets up and clears his throat. And he's leaning on a walking stick and seems to have kind of difficulty standing up for any length of time. Continues to kind of clear his throat, getting ready to speak, but pauses for a second as there's the sounds of dogs barking in the distance. And he waits for the barking to kind of subside, shakes his head, takes a swig from his mug, and begins to clear his throat and try to speak again when the dogs start barking and get even louder. And that's when you start to hear the scream. You hear, "Oscar, is that you? Oscar, what are you? No!" And all of a sudden, the crowd is whipped up into a frenzy around the feasting ground as you see people getting up, tossing over benches and tables, food and beverage spilling onto the ground, trying to get away from generally the north and kind of northeast of the feasting ground. And what you see suddenly, let's see, roll. See. Hess, as you and Fiala are probably engaged in conversation at the feasting ground, you suddenly become aware that there's a figure next to you and it reaches out and it tries to grab you. When you turn to look at it, you see something kind of horrifying staring back at you.
Ugh,
He's a wild man.
it's a wild man.
And it grabs you with its hand, and it has like its nails are a little bit overgrown, and then it reaches down to try to bite you. What do you do?
Um, I tried to stop him.
Okay,
Hmm.
so why don't you roll me a first? Why
Or
don't
should I
you?
push him away or something like that? Try
If
to
you're
stop
trying
him, push
to
him away. So to say.
if you try to slip away, that would probably be an acrobatics test to try to get away from him. If you're trying to push him away, that would be a strength test to try to like push off. So I'll let you decide how you would like to go about it.
I try to push him off.
Okay. Roll a athletics check for me then. Hmm. um, you push yourself or push against the man that seems to be lunging towards you, grabbing you, trying to bite you, and you're unable to push him off. But what you do end up doing is basically pushing yourself away from him. and you fall down onto the ground and can scurry away in the confusion as the figure seems to turn its attention then to Fiala. The rest of you start to see more of these figures. They the tokens all look the same, but these are women, men, old, young, some children. They all start appearing and descending upon the festival goers, who are now in a total state of panic and confusion as everybody is running to either get back to their homes or flee to their tent. So it's time for initiative.
Eh,
It should be if you click uh, on the word initiative, it will. But before you do it, let me put all of
eh,
you.
Also, I have another question. Since I am who I am, can I try to make an action of opportunity to swipe at people that running away to see what I can grab?
Um, you will be able to do whatever you want to do in this combat that's about to happen.
No, the people that are running away from the combat before the combat starts, at least.
Well, what I was going to say is this was not going to be like a traditional combat. We're not going to use a map and you're going to be like moving around, counting your squares or whatever. So I'm going to describe as it gets to each of your turns things that are happening. You may not necessarily have somebody attacking you, but if you want to try to pickpocket more people or lighten their load, as it were, you can certainly do that during your act.
Okay.
Let's go. And now for some more appropriate music. All right.
Yeah, it does.
Okay. So we'll go through each turn in the initiative, and we'll still take it a little bit slow as you guys are learning the system or kind of the flow of play. But it seems like two of these figures are going to go first, and what you guys over here in the kind of melee. Valerian, you hear shouting from over in the merchant stalls. And when you look over to see what is happening in that direction, you see Gloka, who is up on top of his wagon that he is trying to load up. And he has a mace that he is swinging wildly about as two of these figures are like clamoring to get up on top of the wagon and get at him. You hear him say, "Get away from me, filthy barbarians! I've bested cave spiders larger than you!" And he keeps swinging his mace, trying to fend them off. And now, Atol, come down to you. What would you like to do as you see all these figures appear?
I'm here. Sorry, I didn't hear my name. I'm going to turn down the music volume a little bit more than I had because apparently that didn't stick. Okay. I'm going to rush to my backpack. I'm going to grab my gear and attempt to move a little bit away from these guys. I think just grabbing my gear and moving a little bit would be about all I can do, but that's about it.
Sure, and I guess that is a good point, as you guys have been kind of taken a bit unawares, so there is a chance that you may not have all of your gear on you. It would be a little bit odd to be walking around fully decked out for battle in a festival.
My armor is light enough that I can move in it, so I could serve in it. But yeah, my weapons, my backpack, all of that stuff, I'll have to grab. So I think that'll take my entire turn just getting my gear on. That's me.
Okay, I think that's fair. And then Melrick. not Merle, as I incorrectly did last time.
Well, since Mallory haven't gotten time to get a place to live at, he still has everything on him. But yeah, I would like to try to use the chaos to swipe at some people close by to see what I can pick up before, discerning the circumstances around him.
Okay. So, with all the crowds running past you, you can try to do another sleight of hand to try to get any sort of easy marks that maybe lead.
Sleight of hand, it's an action or is it a bonus action?
It's an
It will
action.
be your action.
Can I use stealth afterwards as a bonus action, or that's an action as well?
It is also an action.
Okay, yeah.
So, on the player reference that I put up, that little screen,
I
the one
forgot
on the
about him.
right is the combat kind of describes what the different actions are, and if it's got the green square next to it, that's your main action, and then a bonus action. A rogue will eventually have a way to hide as a bonus action, but right now.
Yep. Now I used the time to make a sleight of hand and walking with the flow of people a little way away from them.
Okay. All right. Well, the scene is absolutely chaotic as people are running in every direction, knocking into each other. People are slipping on the muddy ground and falling onto the ground, and you see more of these figures. At least now, more than what you see currently on the map. But these figures are on top of people. They're screaming. You see blood. But the easiest targets for you are these people who have fallen down onto the ground and maybe are getting trampled on, and you kind of almost do the same. It's like you accidentally bump into people or fall down on them, and you're able to swipe up about 12 copper pieces.
Are you?
Those people, may have been loose money on a table that got flipped over. Maybe somebody's coin purse has just fallen onto the ground, but they're able to get something.
I think that's all I can do, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Or can I take out my sling during the time? I got a slingshot,
I'll say sure. You can.
Yep. Thank you.
All right. Another one of these figures working its way through the crowd now comes close to you, Miriana, or close to you, and Bogdan has basically just like a stick that he also uses to walk around, and y'all have been caught up in the chaos of everybody trying to flee, and this figure tries to grapple and grab onto Bogdan. Yeah. Okay. Before you do that, just going through the initiative here, you see another figure over here, one of these crazed people that suddenly appeared, is assaulting this young woman, and the man who was trying to speak earlier, you hear him yell out, "No, Gwenda!" as there's kind of a scuffle over there, and he tries to run over to help whoever that woman. So, coming to you, yes, you could certainly whistle, though it is quite loud right now. So, We'll see if Icebreaker is able to get there. Want to position yourself to try to defend this person. You can defend Watson. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, if you want to attack him, you certainly can. You're close enough that you don't really have to. Yes, certainly does. Okay. All right. As you slice at it, you also get a pretty good look at this figure, this person, and what you see, especially now, as you draw blood on this creature, its skin is quite yellowed, even jaundiced, and you can see the veins almost read like kind of black lines in its arms and in its chest and in its face, and its veins seem to be kind of like bulging. And whenever your Mieka slices across the figure, the blood seems to be both red, but also tinged with black, almost like oil. Well, okay. Give me 1 second. Roger made an error. The classic error on virtual tabletops where when I change the hit points on one, it changes them for all.
Ah.
I weren't going to do that easily. All right. So.
It's a domino effect.
Right. So there is a, and also, Roger, it would help if you hit the update button. I just did it all again. So we'll swap places with you, Mariana and Bogdan, as there is another one that is charging in your direction. Will attack you, doing all the things that I should have. Yes, it gives a +2 to your AC.
No, you've got
Yes.
armor, so 11 plus
And
dex.
if you have armor.
It should be.
If you added the shield and armor, you can equip them, and
14
it
and
will count
16.
the armor class for itself.
So that. Finally. No, just talking to myself. Sorry. So let me look at your character sheet real quick. Yeah, so yours should be Erica. So your armor class is 14. We'll click the shield. So your armor class is 16. You have everything together. That means. All right. And just in time for one of these figures come at you with its hand and misses. Horrible. And in doing so, it does kind of swing at you and misses, and it kind of falls to the ground, slipping in the mud, and lies prone in front of you. So, Valerian, you see all this unfolding.
All right, Valerian turns around and looks towards Mariana as she screamed at him, and observes the creature that's been wounded, and draws his bow and looses an arrow towards him.
Okay.
Do I have line of sight?
Yes,
Okay, so I assume that's him.
that's right.
I'll roll an attack.
That will hit. And what? As your arrow lands into its target, the force of the blow knocks it backward, and it drops down to the ground, dead. All right. Another one of these. That's the one that is near you has and is assaulting Fiala will attack and try to fight.
But Fiala or me?
Well, that could have been on somebody. It's on Fiala. And you see her, she falls down to the ground, and this thing is on top of her, viciously digging into her flesh with its mouth. And then we will come back, or we'll go to Hest. It's your turn.
Am I still lying on the ground? Yes. How much does it take for me to stand up and try to help?
It's half of your movement to get up, so you would still have some movement, but it doesn't take an action.
I stand up and try to help Fiala while pulling out my knives, trying to attack him with my knives.
All right, go for it. You can do that. That hits.
Can I roll for the second one too?
Mm-hmm. All right. As you jump up and stab at the figure on the ground, it turns and looks at you, its mouth full of blood, and looks like it's ready to pounce on you whenever it gets around. Back to the top of the order. You can also now hear off and hear shouts of children, where it seemed to be children underneath it, with more of these things trying to reach out for them. We're just going to put them here to signify it. And you see 2 children. And one of them darts out from underneath the wagon, drawing one of the figures chasing after. These 2 over here are trying to get after the dwarf. So we will see if they can do so. And you see Glocka the dwarf gets pulled off of the top of his wagon and onto the ground as these 2 figures are. And you hear the very loud, peculiarly pitched sighs of a dwarf. And now we will come to Atol.
So Atol is gonna click his tongue in anger, move a little bit out onto the road,
Sure.
and I'm gonna try and shoot.
Okay. You can certainly do that.
And then I must. Did I attempt to hit it for
Yes,
7 damage?
that will hit. Not on virtue of your amazing 5 on the roll, but that does land for damage.
Honk. Telling the kid to hide. That's me, though.
Right. All right. So your arrow flies across the festival grounds, burying it to the creature who seems undeterred. And, now it's Melrick.
Yeah. How far away am I from this one, you would say?
You can move there this turn.
But how far? 30 feet? More?
Yeah.
Less?
It's under 30 feet.
Can I use a bonus action to drop the slings and draw my gloves instead?
You don't have to use a bonus action. You just drop your sling and draw your glass. I'll allow that.
Yeah. I do it, run up and swipe at the fiend.
Ahead and get your best. That is unfortunately
Used my bonus action for the second one.
yes. Yep.
Died.
And so
Yeah!
at the figure as well, you notice that the its blood that is now coated on your glass, kind of like oily and thick, and just like clings to your blade.
I'm done for my turn.
Okay. All right. Let's see. That one is dead. This. So you're about over here. You know what? Why don't you go ahead and roll me another d6? We'll say that was actually a sneak attack because it was very much distracted by what's going on. Just one. You know, I dropped more of these tokens onto the playing field, and I forgot to change them.
No worries.
Yeah. an ideal world, everything goes. Yeah. So, as you stab the creature Melric, it turns around and it tries to rake at you with its claws. A 17. Does that
It hits.
hit your armor class?
Yep.
You take
15.
a 15. Okay. You take 7 damage. And I believe that equals your
Yeah.
wound threshold.
It does.
So, unfortunately, you are lightly wounded. So you now have disadvantage on any ability checks that you make.
Yep.
And that is its turn. So now we come to Miriana. There is one of these things prone on the ground in front of you. You don't see any sign of icebreaker. Okay.
So attacking a prone thing in melee grants you advantage. Although you
She
crit
doesn't
it,
need
so
it.
don't worry
She
about it.
just critted it. So you, whoop, wrong one. You stab it, and it is dead. Mm-hmm. You could move there. It's within 30 feet. Okay. Then we do that. Can you guys move your tokens or no? Really?
No.
How does that?
I can't move them, no.
I know why that is. Oh well, something for me to figure out then for next. All right. Well, I am happy to oblige. Valerian.
All right, I would like to attack this creature with my bow,
Okay,
the one that's attacking the dwarf.
sure. You may go ahead and do so. And that will hit.
I'm sorry for asking. How do you get so high attack from 4 to 14? That's 10.
That is a good question.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be possible. You should at best have like +5.
What's
It's giving me an extra +5 for some reason.
Oh well, we can fix that.
Yeah, I'm just wondering because I was wondering if I done something wrong on my part.
Nope. That may have been me, perhaps. So now that should be correct. I may have come in and edited and incorrectly added something in your. When you edit your weapon, the attack roll bonus shouldn't have anything there unless you've got like a well-crafted weapon or like a magical weapon that gives you an extra bonus. So, in that case, unfortunately, a 14 is going to the arrow just flies off towards the river. Well, with Fiala down and having been struck by Hess, the figure is going to try and attack at Hess, who is right to him, as well as Mariana. So Hess, this thing is going to try and swipe it.
Yep.
A 16. Does that equal or beat your armor class?
It's equal. My armor class is 16.
Okay. You take 3 points of damage. And it is your turn now.
I stab back at him with my knives.
Okay. That does hit. And after he slashes at you, you return the favor with your knife. And as you slice across him, it falls down to the ground. So now motion.
Oh, he's dead.
And
Can I still move?
yes,
How far is the dwarf away from me?
it will. It's a little bit further, but
I can
it's over
move
here.
again.
So you
against
won't
him.
be able to get there this turn, but you can get
No.
halfway there.
Okay. I move halfway there then.
Okay. And then we will come back to the top of the initiative. The figures are still attacking the dwarf, and you just see his body kind of goes limp. Now, the children, you all lose track of the girl that was running away from underneath the cart, but there is still one of the girls underneath the cart who is trying to hide. And we will see if she's able to hold on. Well, it's not looking good over there. And we will come to Aton.
So I don't know what the status of the child is because I'm not going to go over there to examine, but I can still see the creature.
Yes.
So I'm going to attempt to make it stop doing that thing. Hey, jackass, over here. Fight me, an adult. Totally not a teenager, effectively.
Your arrow pierces right through it and almost anchors it to the side of the wagon that it's been trying to get underneath the kid, and it suddenly stops moving.
And then with my move, I'm going to attempt to hide, just get behind a chair, a table, anything,
Okay.
and try to not be noticeable. I don't know if that rolled. It did roll. Cool. That's me.
Okay. So typically, whenever you are hiding, that's your main action, right?
True.
So you could certainly move and like find cover.
Cover would be fine.
Yeah. So hide is just a very specific thing if you're trying to be hidden versus looking for cover.
Indeed. Sorry about that. I'll just get
okay.
cover.
You get a racial bonus that lets you hide on a bonus action.
Indeed. Only in natural occurrences, though.
I see. Okay, thanks.
And then also eventually, Melric, who is now your turn, he will be able to hide as a bonus action eventually.
Second level.
Indeed.
So, Melric.
Well, I will continue slashing at the same target as before.
Okay.
trying to bring him down so I can save what I'm guessing is the Jarl.
All right, you may swing. Jeebus.
Nat 20. And if you read my text, it's very beautiful.
um, um,
If he is alive still, it's
no
miraculous.
surprise as you stab it with your glass. It kind of recoils in pain and then slumps down to the ground, kind of over top of the young girl that is also on the ground.
The girl is on the ground. She's downed, or is? I still got movement. I'm checking if the girl is dead or alive, more or less.
She is injured. You can tell that she has quite a large gash on her arm from where the creature was attacking her.
Is it profusely bleeding?
Yes.
What about the other person next to her?
This figure, the older man who was coming over, he actually, as he was coming over to try to save the young girl, you notice that he has quite a significant hobble. And even with the use of his walking stick, he has actually fallen onto the ground, slipping in the wet condition. He looks old to you, so if he was a fighter, his fighting days are long past.
Can I also manage to make a perception check to see if there are more people around that isn't on the battle map before I move along?
Sure.
You know, looking right, left if I see more.
Sure. Yeah, roll.
And I have a disadvantage because I'm lightly wounded.
Yes.
And let's see how that one's work. Should I roll twice instead and take the lower one? It doesn't matter.
So whenever you roll,
Yeah,
you can roll twice, and we'll just take the lower.
I don't think it gets lower than 3.
You could roll a 1. It's still kind of chaotic and confusing, and there is the kind of light drizzle coming down from the sky. So you look about, and your eyes are kind of squinting to see, but you could tell by now that the village, they have their own herds that have assembled and seem to be putting an end to whatever these creatures are. So what you see kind of before you is kind of what is left.
Well, I'm not gonna run away to attack. I try to help the old man up, and end my turn with that.
Okay. You help him up, and he uses his stick to kind of help push himself up, and he thanks you as you do that.
Master, stand up! Come on.
Mariana, it seems that the situation has calmed just a bit around you. Yes. Fiala, as you bend over her to check her pulse, you could tell that she is breathing. It's still quite labored, and she has lost a bit of blood, but she still seems to be alive. Sure. You are able to provide her with some initial triage, very obviously seeing where her wounds are and applying the bandages to help, apply pressure and stop the bleeding. But it's hard to tell, if she'll make it or not. Okay. Valerian.
All right, I would like to cast a Sacred Flame cantrip on that creature.
Okay. All right, so it has what, a dex? It saves, so your summoned bright light does not harm it. Unfortunately.
All right, thanks.
Pest.
Best.
Yes.
It is
Oh,
yours.
sorry. It's my turn. Isn't the guy at no, was just a small dead skull at him. Yeah, I continued.
Yeah, for the dwarf.
Yeah, and the guy at the little ladies was
He is
also dead. He's dead
Yep.
too.
So it's just these two are the
Yeah.
only two you see.
I go. Do I reach this guy
You can
Yeah.
reach either of them in this turn and still attack.
and still attack? Then I reach the one you marked and attack with my knives.
Okay. That one will miss.
That's going to miss.
That one will hit.
Good damage.
And as you stab it, it will stop feasting on the dwarf and now turn around and look at you. And as we go to the next round, it will try to attack you. First, trying to rake you. And that'll hit a 19, I believe, and you take 2 points of damage. Not yet. You don't see any sign of ice. The other figure that was over the dwarf gets up and turns to you and is going to try to bite you. And as it does, nope, it'll miss you. That isn't. Okay. Aetol.
So I'm going to scream southward. Come back to safety. We're holding out. Come back. But not being able to see the other child wherever they are down here, Hess seems to be taking on a bit more than anyone would want to. So this one off to the side of him that's a bit closer to me, I would like to apply arrow. And I won't be able to apply arrow.
Well, you question that, but you actually hit.
Oh, excellent.
And-
I shoot a little bit wobbly, but manage to get the blow in after all.
And despite your wobbly arrow, it drops one of the creatures in front of you, Hess, it almost like falls forward, and you have to step aside as the body kind of collapses beside. And now, Melric.
Elric indeed. The old man got up on the turn before. I helped him over to the young lady who was approaching, if he wants to go there.
Yes, he
What?
goes with you
Yeah.
to go and look at the young woman.
Yeah. I have no bandage or anything. Is there any way to stifle the bleeding?
Well, you may not have any bandages, but you've
Know
got
that.
other things. You can rip some clothing or what.
Yes, indeed. I will rip a part of my coat I got on me.
Okay.
And try to cover it up. What am I rolling for?
Roll medicine with disadvantage. Unlucky. You misjudge how much she is bleeding, and the small scrap that you rip off is almost instantaneously just soaked. It's just soaking up the blood from her wound, and just becomes frail as you're trying to like tie off a knot. The bandage just and while you are trying to apply this aid, the older man says, Wenda, are you alive? And is like checking her much in the same way as Fiala. She seems to be uh, she has her heart is still beating and she's breathing, but seems to be labored. And Miriana, we come over to you and your person you are triaging. Um, roll me a medicine check. You think that perhaps, at least right now, the worst has passed. Um, in the long term, you don't know, but seeing that the threats are mostly neutralized, there's not many of these creatures left, probably safe. Leave her for the moment. Okay. Yeah, they are. Between you and Melric, you are able to cover up her wounds and sop up most of the blood that has still been coming out, or close up the wound a little bit more. And she coughs a little bit, some of that of her own blood, but you can also see that her blood now is slightly tinged with that black release. He has just like a defeated, downtrodden look, and his eyes kind of get a little widery in his mouth as a gape, and he's like, What do you mean?" Hmm. Um, let's see. What would he? Um, I'll say from your previous, well, to avoid making you roll another medicine check again, you do not know anything about if this is a poison or some sort of illness that seems to be afflicting her, or what these creatures have that appeared. But you do remember that the herb that you bought from Vinmi, she told you if you made like a tincture of it, it had some some healing or curative properties. She said if you made it into like a tincture or some sort of potion, but perhaps there's a way that you could use it now and see if it would work. He nods, and we'll move on to Valerian. You, Hest, and Atoll are kind of at the southern edge of the festival grounds, and Hest is fighting with one more of these things, and the situation around you seems to be under control now, except for this one remaining creature.
All right, Valerian will knock an arrow and try to take down the last creature in the south.
Okay.
It's
I do
did it roll?
It rolled.
Sorry,
something rolled.
nothing came on my side.
I don't know if there's suddenly going to be like 5 more attack rolls, but the one that I used in the chat does hit. The creature does not fall to the ground, but you can tell from the arrow landing in it that it has dealt it some damage. And now we come to Hess.
I tried to stab him with my knives.
Okay. Your first attack, you stab and bury your knife into it, and it's still standing in front of you, but you can tell that it is kind of like wobbling backwards, almost like it's ready to fall down.
Okay.
I.e., it's not dead.
And I hit it again. I hit
Unfortunately, that one will miss.
that one missed.
Unfortunate. It has armor class 12. You were close. But you could, if you want, you have a point of Roud that you could spend if you want, or you all have your 2 points of Roud. If you feel like you want to finish it quickly, because it will now go next if you do not. Yes or no?
Why not?
All right. So if you spend the point of Roud, you have advantage on the attack, so you can try it again.
Okay. I try it again then.
Oh, he did. It was, he
Yes,
rolled
he misses.
already, or he rolled the first roll, and I was using the rest in his second chance, but he rolled. So it happens, and so it happens that it kind of just lurches forward at you, Hess, and will try to bite you.
Damn, that thing wants to bite me. Yep.
17 hits, and you take 2 piercing damage and 4 poison damage. For a total of 6 damage.
One more time.
6 damage total.
Yes,
Yep.
So I have one left.
And I believe that is also enough to put you over or it's at your wound threshold. So you are also lightly wounded.
Yeah. Where do I?
Player screen down in the right corner, you see what it means.
Yep. If you are lightly wounded until you are healed, you have disadvantages on all ability checks. I had noted down everybody's wound thresholds because I was not able to get the condition tracker set up this week, but I will still endeavor to do it to help us cut down my physical note taking right now. But Atoll, you see this, that Hest has this figure almost like falling on top of him, like biting his shoulder.
Oh gosh, this is gonna seem a little bit callous, maybe? But there's 7 or 8 people up here who are murdering these things at a good rate. And there's a child somewhere over here that is facing one alone. I'm gonna take a simple move action to move south and see if I can't see the monster, because it's not attempting to hide. And if after that move I can't see it, then I'll attack that one. But if I can see it after moving once, I will attack the one chasing the child, rather.
Okay. So, when you move, you do see it, but you see it just in time for you see this person kind of standing near the child who is on the ground as he swings an axe at the creature, clefting off its arm, and it falls down to the ground. So you need not worry about the child and the other one, at least for now.
Then I will use my actual action to shoot the one that's up by Hess.
All right.
After determining that, where is the attack roll? Roll for me? Boop. There we go.
Most excellent. As your arrow lands into it, Hest, you do suddenly feel all the weight of like a full-grown man now falling on top of you. But it is, for all intents and purposes, dead. And my dog is growling as she hears the neighbor's dog barking. So that is the end of the combat. And the aftermath of all this is probably something we'll need to pick up in the next session. But as it stands right now, you all see these figures on the ground. Most of them have been killed, though you hear some of the villagers describing some of the figures just clutching their chests and falling down to the ground motionless. So you could see all the herdmen going around to the figures and just like stabbing them with spears or hacking off limbs with their axes, trying to make sure that they are all dead. And you see Atoll, the figure that seemed to have saved that girl, he appears now in the main festival area as well, and he seems to be the one barking orders at all the herdmen to round up all the wounded and get them to the inn. And the old man over here, who Melrick and Mariana, you learn his name is Coldry. He also instructs everybody who is still in the festival ground to go to the inn. And that is where we're going to pick it up next. If that is all right with everybody.
Indeed. What was the name of the younger man who was shouting orders? Did you say it?
His name is, you'll have to correct my pronunciation if I am spelling it or saying it incorrectly. But his name is Vendia.
India.
And what you all quickly learn is that Venbia is actually the Guardzial, and Coldry is the former one. So it seems
Okay.
like there are two people here with lots of authority. But as they take account of the dead and wounded, what I will say is there is a young girl who is wounded. Coldry's daughter, Wenda, is wounded. Fiala is wounded. And Glocka, the dwarf, is also wounded. And also among the wounded is one of the performers that you had seen earlier. And there's about a score more villagers who have been wounded, and there's a handful who are dead currently. So I would say, as far as experience for you guys today, let me see. Sorry, I have to do some quick math. And when I say quick math, I mean open up my calculator. Yep. Bane of us all. Everybody can have 50 experience for the day.
We're doing group XP, correct?
That is correct. So I'm telling you each individually what you get. So in total for today, you all have 50 experience.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm going to put that in the party journal, just because if we're doing it as a group, we might as well record it there.
Sure.
You can add it to the level bar as well.
Yeah, do it in both places because your characters, once you hit that threshold to level up, it will affect your proficiency bonuses. Like that stuff and like your hit points, all that stuff will start tracking, I think, automatically, but you may have to do it. We'll see. But good. Yes.
Yeah. So it's adding your proficiency, not your wisdom mod. It would be adding both, basically.
Interesting. Let's right. So what I will say is this may have not been clear last time, and that's partially my fault. But each of your abilities, where you have your ability scores, you have the raw number. So if I'm looking at Tris, your wisdom, you have a 12 is your wisdom score. The number that is to the left, the modifier, that is actually your wisdom modifier. The value to the right is your saving
Your
throw.
saving throw.
So it is calculating your medicine correctly because you are proficient in medicine, so you get a +2, and you get a +1 for wisdom.
Yeah, 3 +3 is correct.
Yeah.
Hey,
But
to make
those
sure,
attacks,
I
the-
I
just
was
had to
I
do
was
something.
checking all of the rolls while we were going through. The only other one I noticed that was wrong was Matt's bow, but obviously it was noticed.
yeah.
So, uh, so I've got +3 from my stat, I've got 2 from prof, and I've got 2 from my archery style. So I've got
the
+7
warrior, so he's going to be good at everything whenever it comes to fighting.
to shoot the bow. It's +7 if you look at the bottom. Any of the rolls, the last roll. If you look, why did my ITEL roll? Oh wait, what? Why it is a 9 down there? It should be a 7. I'll have a look at that. 322. Yeah. Hang on.
Also, the proficiency and what you call the other one?
Expertise.
Is he expertise on Boston?
No, I've got archery style. That's why I've got +2.
Archery, yeah, I understand that one. And the dexterity, how much do you have? +3?
+3, correct.
Hmm.
So there's just an additional +2. I'm going to find out why that is. I'll sort it out
I think what it is.
immediately. Hadoop. I figured it out, I think. Let me just confirm.
Yeah.
So if I do this, will it roll
Sorry,
correctly
guys.
now?
I need to head out.
Okay.
Yes. Take care.
Yes,
Thank you
Thanks,
very
guys.
much.
It was a
Cheers.
really
It was
awesome session.
Good session.
A lot of fun. Thanks, Raj.
That's correct, yeah.
See ya.
Bye, guys. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Take care.
Sorry.
Right. So Hayes, what it may be. So I'm looking at I'm in the settings for your laying bogey. Check for proficient, your ability modifier. If you change that to dexterity, get rid of the extra formulas you have in damage formula. Well, that's your damage formula.
No, my damage form. I fixed it. It's fine. So
Okay.
what happened was I added a modifier for my archery style, and now that I'm looking at my sheet, you added my archery style as well.
Got it. That's what I figured it was going to be.
So we were both adding +2 to my ranged attack rolls. So I got rid of the archery style that I added, and now the archery you added is still there.
Okay. Also, I noticed.
Yours has a pretty icon.
I think it was you who rolled for two different kind of bows. First, then the bow, then the longbow.
No. So Nightmare has a Vedi bow. I only have a longbow. Long bogey.
Yes. Yeah, he has a bogey.
The Vedi bogey. I also have a crossbow, but I didn't roll that one at all. It's not loaded. But yes, when it comes to attack rolls, I've only got the long bogey, really.
Yeah. So, Tosha,
yeah,
the way the expertise is going to work. So you see that on your skills where the check mark is.
Yeah, I've seen the expertise on stealth at least.
Yep.
Yeah.
So if you keep clicking through some of those, that has different options for, how the bonus is calculated for your skills. So whenever you become expert in a skill, you just click on the check mark until you get that double check mark. And then I think for your thieves tools, you're an expert in those. And so in there is a tool proficiency, and I think I set it to expertise, or you may have.
Yeah, it says on expertise, yeah.
Okay.
I just wanted to check one thing else actually while I'm here. If I roll a check, can I press the minus on it? Yes, I can. So guys, for advantage and disadvantage on a skill check or an attack roll, if you hover over the result, there's a plus and a minus on either side of it. If you click on the minus, it rolls the skill check again, but gives you the disadvantage.
Excellent.
And if you click on the plus, it'll give you the advantage.
Nice. Good to know.
I can't see the plus and minus.
You must hover over the number in the result. So make a skill check just quickly.
Yep.
It won't happen on other people's checks as a note, only on yours.
Mm-hmm.
So if you hover over that 6, you'll see on either side of it will be a plus and a minus.
Yeah, okay.
Click the plus, you'll roll this check with advantage.
Definitely.
And then it'll auto-highlight the higher number.
I was looking on the character sheet when you said plus and minus, but I can't see it, no.
In the chat log, yeah. So I just wanted to confirm that quickly. for future sessions. Anyways, that's all of the mechanical stuff. Sorry, I went all mechanical on us there. Thank you for the session, by the way. It was great fun.
Good. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it, and I think everything is off to a good start. So next week we'll continue with unraveling what is going on and whatever other things that you guys may want to do. But then we'll either take a break for 2 weekends from now on March 5th, whenever Fives and Tosha have their other game. We'll probably go ahead and just GM knowledge of where things are going to be going. I think you guys are going to be all together as a party, and you will not want to not have two of your characters along for the ride.
Exactly. Fair enough.
Especially this early, because you see how quickly, even though these monsters were only challenge rating 8, they were easy to hit, but it only took a couple hits on Hess to almost knock him out. So
We're level 1. A good dice roll can take us down.
Yeah, the whole team went down on the practice roll.
That's one of the main reasons I went for a bow character. I was super tempted to build like a super dwarf with a hammer guy. But wading into melee without a shield seems just a fast way to end your story early.
well, I think you guys have it right. The Dex build is certainly the way to go in 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, unless you're like a barbarian or something like that, because you have so many advantages to having a high Dex stat. Your armor class, if you're using the right weapons, high damage, high attack roll, and then you've also got the versatility of being ranged and or melee.
Yeah.
So anyway, I need to log off as well to go and do some other things today, but I will leave the game up if you guys want to continue to tweak and work on stuff. And then
Thank you very
if there's
much.
any other questions, just feel free to post it in the chat.
Indeed. Thank you very much for the game.
Yeah, no,
Thank you.
and I will talk to you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.